booster ignition and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and the Bean universe. Lesbo and the Bean. LATB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and the Bean.
3, 2.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Out of Brazil, we had 14 fights. Sao Paulo ended out showing out. We had some upsets. We had some robberies. We had some judges coming in both ways. Couple gifts, but overall night, I would say that the end of the year UFC cards are really starting to show out. We're getting some freaking, I would say good shows because people got put night very hard in there, but there were squash matches as well, just like the Russia card. We kind of said the same thing was going to happen. Brazil's going to roll. The foreigners are going to be few and far between that win, and that's pretty much how it turned out. A lot of the local guys coming through. How did you feel overall over the Saturday card?
I cannot wait for Conor and Khabib.
That's all you can think about?
I am horrible, but we haven't talked about the press conference since we've been back. And so I didn't know what was the bigger event, us recapping the fights or us recapping that presser. So I didn't know what one we should do first and what one we should do last.
I'm down to just get the presser over with because I felt like it was super underwhelming. I know a lot of people were like, yay, Conor's back, whatever, but you don't let the fans in. What are we doing this for, people? What are we doing this for? Conor said it himself in the first question. He is just like, are you kidding me? How are the fans not here? Dana, in that sense, then come doubling down and saying he loves and thought it was a good idea overall to not allow the fans to join. What is your personal point of view on that?
Conor is such a maniac. I think Dana played it right.
Wow.
I think Dana played it right.
Wow.
Keeping everyone out builds interest for the whole entire thing. And at first, it was uncomfortable without the audience. But then, slowly Conor turned it on. I thought he did a fucking amazing job, and I've never seen a professional athlete control an audience, even though there wasn't the fan audience. It was a fucking captivated one. I was captivated AF. I was on the edge of I didn't give a shit what Khabib had to say.
He didn't say much, but I don't think Conor turned it on. I think it's called getting drunk. Because he had 4 drinks in that short whiskey.
He was going to.
Oh,
drank a fifth of whiskey?
No. He did the little boy. He did the little pocket pouch. That's the one he finished. Didn't he? Because he brought the tall 5th, and then he brought the little back pocket. What
I thought the little one was a 5th.
Oh, damn. I could be wrong on that.
I don't know either.
Me neither, but
he finished the little one.
He finished the little one for sure. He had at least 4 drinks that I could think of. Dana had a sip.
Yeah, Dana had a sip, and he finished the entire rest.
Yep. And I thought when that was happening that he was actually going to go throw alcohol in Khabib's face. And Dana said himself, I thought he was going to throw the glass into Khabib's face, but luckily that didn't happen. Overall, you said you didn't realize that Khabib was even there. Didn't either.
Here's the other thing. If they would have had an audience there, then they would have had to probably pay for a whole bunch more for insurances and all these other things that they didn't know ahead of time, and probably an amount of time they'd have to rent the room for. And I don't think they had as much time to book the room because Conor McGregor has so much control right now that the whole entire thing was built around his court schedule and like when he had to go back to America to do whatever. It was all built around either he had to be at court to sign a signature, or he had to go to probation, or he had to, I don't know what the terms were of his, I could look into it more, but I'm not a fight reporter or anything. I believe it was all built around his schedule altogether, and Khabib's entire life and team, even though he's the champ, is flying around at the whim of the discretion of the courts because Conor's wrongdoing.
I think you have a point there, and I could totally see that because if we know anything, Conor has really taken the fight management mentality to the next level where other fighters are now imitating him. If I remember correctly, the only way they pretty much allowed, or the only reason Conor was okay with fighting Khabib is if he's co-promoter. Like, that's next level. No other fighter has ever done anything like that. But I think there's a grain of truth there. He is thinking on this next level scale, and it's proving over and over again that he's just like, yeah, I'll fight for you guys, but I don't need to. But guess what? My freaking whiskey's gonna be on the canvas.
Exactly.
Like, that's very intelligent,
If time
very
is
next
money,
level thinking.
Conor McGregor isn't where most people, anyone else in the world, when they're forced to have to do community service or something of that nature. I bet you, if you look at the back of his Proper 12, it says, I know for a fact it says, like, part of the proceeds of this go to first responders.
Mm-hmm.
And him doing a commercial for Proper 12 is him doing community service if a percentage of the alcohol goes to first responders of New York City. So did he just do community service and we all watched Conor McGregor do community service?
Good call. I could see that potentially being a good way to be able to skirt some of those responsibilities, and that's why he pays legal tees. Another skirting.
But that's really next level thinking.
It is.
That's Floyd Mayweather thinking.
Or is it Conor McGregor?
In the next 10 years, do you think Conor McGregor has a chance at surpassing Floyd?
I could definitely see that, because Floyd, as young as he was, wasn't doing what Conor is now. And I would even say that, as you were saying, Conor learned a lot from that Mayweather fight in promotion as well. Yeah. Like, they worked in tandem. They were not fighting each other. There's a reason there's photos in Mayweather's house about them guys.
Okay, next question. Do you think Conor got to Khabib?
Yes. Dana White said it himself, and we know that Conor likes to dig deep and bringing up all of that Russian mafia connections we're here at LaTB we've been on top of from the get-go. I mean, Conor, I don't care who you are, the people he's talking about, and again, going after Conor's father and their cultural national pride, it's the whole Sugar Shane versus Roberto Duran too. The No Mas, Roberto Duran was pissed that Sugar Shane was just trying to make fun of him, and Roberto Duran by that time was a champion. Like, it got his goat that somebody was coming after the king.
Or like Cowboy. How Cowboy Cerrone fights. It seems like Cowboy would fight Conor horribly, because if you get yelly and mean with Cowboy, he fights
Shuts
worse.
down.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Some people are not great emotional. Like, look at Aldo.
I agreed. Walked into a punch. Walked right
Eddie
into
Alvarez.
a punch. And he said it got him too.
Eventually got to him.
And not only is it just these conversations, Conor threw a dolly at a window and then was like, "You take a shit on the bus," which was the fucking best line.
That is the best line that no one's doing. That's the t-shirt I would make. Is Conor McGregor.
He would have shit on the bus. The back of the bus.
You took a shit on the bus. That should be our t-shirt that we
That's
release.
a good
I'm
one.
gonna.
Yeah.
That is gonna be LaTB's first shirt. You took a shit on the bus. I shit on the bus. I shit on the bus. He said some such. Did you think he was historically accurate and educated on stuff?
I think the more and more I've looked into that, because now other reporters have typed up and showed some of that. Mystic Mac does his research. He doesn't come out with deep cuts unless he knows they hurt.
They're like, your people are cowards. They were chased to the edge of cliffs, chased off their land. My people fought so hard. Our name McGregor was, if you had the name McGregor, you were banished for 100 years.
Also factually true.
Isn't that nutsy shit?
That is absolutely nutsy stuff.
It's like,
which I love. This ain't medieval times, gladiator days. We've said it here before. That's what they're doing in there. These guys, if they did go to the death, they'd fight to the death. They'd fight to the death. It's just that we got rules and commissions, unless you got Herb Dean in there.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
But talking about skirting around the rules, Jon Jones is officially cleared to fight as of October 28th. Happy Halloween, mofos. We called it here at LaTB. Told you, Gustafsson, Jon Jones is on the way.
If Conor beats Khabib, is he in your thoughts for pound?
Nope.
Is Khabib in your thoughts for pound?
Nope. That's why.
Okay, but to me, it makes it more interesting if Conor beats Khabib. If the other beat the other, if they're not in the talks for pound, then it's not as interesting for the George St. Pierre fight to soon follow. Do you know what I mean?
I could see that, but if it's a win over GSP, then it's finally pound for pound talks. Ugh. The only way would be GSP will put him immediately pound for me, or Tony fight. Those are the only two fighters where I'm like, okay, or T Wood, or T Wood. I think he's up there. He's close.
He's up there.
He's up. He's close.
I like T Woods in the top for pound.
Yep. T Woods.
And we know GSP, but I think they could. If this all happens, the UFC would be silly not to do a tournament style fight.
I totally agree, especially with the way other organizations are actually
open
doing
contract
legit.
That every contract's up for negotiation within a few percentage points of the original contract.
Yep.
And I think they could really make it happen. And they got a lot of big names going on. And I hope for Tony that he comes out with a good performance.
Totally agree.
That fight means everything. And the one at 230, Nate Poirier. It's so in the shadow. It's like it's a fucking weed in the shadow that no one's realizing how big it's going to be when that Conor fight peels off, and it's like, holy shit. And we still don't know the main event, which
is going to be Jon Jones, Alexander Gustafsson. We said it here first. The only other potential is Jon Jones, Brock motherfucking Lesnar, but I don't think his pool. I don't think USADA.
Can you imagine if DC loses his fight to Brock Lesnar, Jon Jones?
I'm backtracking because I don't think Lesnar's been in the USADA pool long enough. It has to be 6 months. Yeah, I think it's at the early end of the year. So
I don't care about Gustafsson.
I agree. It was one of the fight of the years potentially, but now with everything the way that it's gone, it's just it doesn't seem like it's an absolute must.
205. What about? I don't think DC ever even tries to get to do 205 again. He is huge right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. He shouldn't.
He's trying to put on muscle under big, huge, heaviness.
No, it's DC just being 40 years old, lifelong wrestler. He's messed with his metabolism more than most people, and it happens to. I knew a couple older wrestlers that were 400 pounds that are like, I ruined my nervous system because I was cutting so bad back in the day. It catches up to you eventually. And bad eating habits. Ask Johnny Hendricks. Ask a lot of these other guys. I'm not coming out of my ass here. I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes growing up. So, any other breaking? We've had fights getting booked. That was touching.
It was touching. It made me sad, and it's really the first time for me, that I've gotten to see where Matt Hughes is at right now. Like, you see him in a still, and it's like, oh, look at Matt Hughes, he's doing okay.
Yep.
And it's like, whoa.
He got ran over by a train. What? He's alive. He's alive. That's a win. Definite win.
And I think he gave Dana credit where credit is due. Everyone hates on Dana all the time. And he's like, no, he called my wife and asked her if she needs anything. Like, he really cared.
Yep.
So
I
just thought it was a nice thing.
Hughes was the face, carried that organization on his back for a little while there, for about a year and a half. It was Matt Hughes' show. 100%. So, into the Brazilian fight card, the 14 fights we go, unless you got anything left in the old Twitterverse tank.
No.
We started off tonight with Souza, the debuter, coming in against Alexis Chamber. This was a squash match, minus 1,200 by the betting lines closing, and we saw it. Chambers didn't stand a chance in there. Isn't UFC caliber, and not much to say. Souza looked good in there, but against Chambers, you can't put too much stock into this. Give her a UFC quality opponent and might be a little bit different. How did you feel that fight went down?
Pretty much the same. I actually feel about her exactly the same way as I do Grasso.
Salsa?
Yeah, and I even think USADA could be a whole fake front. And Grasso, the UFC saw what I saw with her, and they liked her name so much to build up that she got in trouble for marijuana so that she could take a year and like fine tune some of her skills a little bit so she doesn't like get a bunch of losses and do what they did to Angela Lee. Or not Angela Lee, Angela Hill. You know, they like kind of... She wasn't ready yet to be in the UFC when she was there, and it really was to her. It was great for her to go down a little bit, and you don't see her for a while, and then she comes back and she's a slayer. Totally
good call. I thought you were talking about they were going to get her married to a racist to beat her up, but
oh my, oh my.
Then we went to another squash match in Ezekiel Zaleski over Luigi Short Notice Vendemini. This was a TKO round number 2. A lot of people thought it would be first round TKO, as did we here at LaTB. And tough Vendemini ended up getting in a Peruvian necktie. And guess what? Zaleski had that motherfucker in. Zaleski had that Peruvian necktie tight. He gassed himself a bit. And Vendemini had a deep-ass rear naked choke for about 2.5, 3 minutes at the end of that first round. I was shitting my pants. I was like, oh, do not let my 95,000 Zaleski get eaten up right here by this 22-year-old. And luckily, Zaleski's fight IQ and experience came through, showed through. I like Vendemini. Young guy, has got a long way to come, or a long way to go, but this is a big step for him. And like them both, I didn't really learn anything from Zaleski other than those arms get tired quickly for him. He can dig deep. But Vendemini, somebody who's going to look better and better as these fights go on. What do you think about this fight?
I don't know about Vendemini so much, or if that was just that was just his fight.
Was that his banana moment?
He was just exploding because he was scared for his life.
Nothing to lose.
I actually think Zaleski's call out of Robbie Lawler is a perfect fight for him.
Great call. I totally agree. That's a fun one.
I think it is a perfect stepping stone and kind of a guy I'm ready to fade in Robbie Lawler. So, but I don't know about this. How often does he fight out of Brazil?
Zaleski?
Yeah.
I feel like he's fought in Florida once or twice. He's fought in the States a couple times.
But yeah, I like him going forward. He has a skill set. He needs to work on his cardio.
Exactly. Even for the loss in Vendemini, what'd you like? Did you like anything? Right, is better said.
I mean, he jumped on to a submission, but that's all he did for the entire time. So I don't know. Maybe I want to see another fight.
Totally.
Another fight going.
Totally.
For sure.
Then we ended up going to Thales Leites, defeating Hector Lombard at 185 pounds. This was a close ass fight. Do you know the freaking, what is that? Total Recall, where that freaking baby is out of that guy's belly? That little alien out of that guy's belly? Uh-huh. That was growing out of Thales Leites' knee by the end of that first round.
Nice.
It was so much fluid in that leg. I thought it was going to be a TKO stoppage due to leg kicks. But Thales Leites ended up coming out, and Hector Lombard gassed hard after that first round. Never came back. Lost the next 2 rounds, 29-28. Thought it was decidedly Leites' fight. I believe he retired as well, right?
They laid him down in the octagon. And when a guy does it, I like that. Like, I walk away when it, like...
It's time.
Be done on a win. Realize, like, okay. Know it, plan it, do it.
Hector Lombard, now in a 7-fight losing streak because he was on a sticks beforehand.
He's probably just waiting to win one so he can retire. He's like, this will be the fight I retire.
So,
Back at it again. This will be the fight I retire. Back at it again.
Pretty much got to fade Hector Lombard wherever he goes. Wherever. It's just, again, time has come to move on for that young man. at 40 years old. Then we went to debuting Bueno Silva versus Jillian Robertson. This ended up being a submission at 4 minutes 55 seconds. Here, LaTB, this was our underdog. We had Jillian.
See, I think we should retire the underdog. It is not working.
It's been rough. It's like
not meant to be that something good happens. Like for the
did we
UFC,
designate her though our Leslie Smith, or just called her our underdog?
I think we just probably did Leslie Smith without even knowing.
I'm not sure if we did. I think we just. Either way, Robertson was looking good in there. She was winning that fight. She had Silva on her back.
I agree with you.
Silva had a couple punches that Robertson didn't like, but once they got to the ground, Robertson was easily winning that 10-9 round, getting all sorts of position. That armbar, though, Robertson's arm was bent the other way. If you look at that highlight...
I don't look at it. The second that I know that it's going, I turn my head.
It definitely hyperextended. People that are like, oh, why did she not roll through or wait 5 more seconds? That arm would have been so much more broken.
I seen Misha Tate Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, for real.
Those. I don't need to ever see it again. I seen Anderson Silva shit. Like, I don't need to see that shit.
So with Silva... Anybody with any type of a takedown game, I am definitely going to bet against, because Silva on the ground was really, really lacking. She has good strikes, but...
I'm not going to jump on any kind of hype train for her either.
No,
I agree with you. Even though we thought a lot of Jillian Robertson, I thought Jillian still looked good in there. And
totally.
She just got caught up in one of those there was nothing...
Right. With the striking, though, of Robertson being so lacking and how good supposedly Silva is... I didn't think she looked specifically good striking either. So that's where I'm like, people that are all over the Silva train, no thank you very much. I still think Roberts needs to get her striking on point a little bit more, but her ground game looks stiff. Other than, of course, that armbar. Then we went to the 170-pounders with Sergio Moraes defeating Ben Saunders via submission. Round number 2, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace ended up showing that rubber guard is tough to get going when you get fundamentally out grappled. It was inches. It was a game of centimeters, and Moraes had the better movement in there, unfortunately, for Brendan Saunders.
There's really only 2.5 people that I've ever seen do rubber guard well in the UFC. Tony Ferguson, Brian Ortega, and sometimes Nate Diaz, in my opinion.
And Ben Saunders at times against people that aren't that good in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Faded. Yeah. That's what, the second I remembered, it was Jake Ellenberger. And I've been wanting to fade Sergio Moraes for a while. Yep. He was just that much better. It was like as good as Ben Saunders thought he was. Holy wow. It took him the 2 rounds to figure it out, but he didn't put any space between them, and it was an impressive exchange of jiu-jitsu, and I really, really enjoyed it. That was one for the hardcore fans all day. If you were a dickhead at the bar that never really watches UFC or doesn't know much about it, a casual fan, you were like, what are they doing? Why aren't they getting stood up?
Get them off the ground.
Yeah, it was so good that there was an educated referee in there.
Oh yeah. So kudos sometimes to educated referees, and I wish I knew who it was. Was it Mark Goddard? Because I usually give him hate. And Goddard had a big presence, and who was the lady? She was in there a lot.
She did a great job.
She did a lot of good fights.
There was a lot of good refereeing, and surprisingly, good judging.
I would beg to differ. There
was
one, but the other one was good, and we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
With
so
Moraes,
I felt
where
like
do you
one
go?
overall that was kind of close, and we'll get there.
So Moraes, where does Saunders go? I think Saunders needs to go back to that Bellator scene, if not start to take a look on the way out. Moraes, very uniquely positioned, because if he can get people to the ground, he can work his game plan, but striking wise, Moraes can be exploited against, again, somebody who can sprawl and brawl. So then we go to the heavyweights.
So maybe the UFC will just keep feeding like the guy that thinks he's going to survive on this jiu-jitsu game and thinks he's all dat. And they're like, here you go, Moraes, take this guy out. Like,
we could definitely see that. Then we had a debut in Brazilian, Augusto Sakai against Chase Sherman. This ended up being a TKO round number 3. Chase Sherman showing that he's one of the best punching bags in the sport, because That guy has had strike records set on him every time he steps in the ring or in the cage. Every time. Gas tank, not there all the time. I
didn't think he looked that bad at first. I thought he looked good in the first round.
The first round?
And I thought he just slowly started to fade off. I had him to win by a knockout in round 3, and I just couldn't believe Sakai would do so much better at 205.
I don't know about that. Because it's that what we say, like, his advantages are that he's fast and athletic, but it's because he's a 205er at heavyweight. Instead of with other 205ers that are beasts.
I did not love the way he looked in there against Chase Sherman.
I agree, he was flabby. But that's him. He's always been flabby.
I just mean against Chase Sherman's skill set.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I agree with that.
I didn't love him in there against Chase Sherman's skill set. And so I'm like, how much further does he go from here? So I might want to see him at a lower weight class if he's going to, because he had some really nice punching techniques. But I don't,
I agree in the heavyweight.
If he lost some weight and stuff, I don't know. I didn't love what I saw from either guy, but this is the heavyweight division.
I would love to see Justin Ledet move back up from 205 and actually meet Sakai. I think that would be a striking delight.
I'm never going to remember this. You should remind me next time. You don't ever want to pick Chase Sherman again.
Yeah. I think the beat was saying, you got to fake Chase Sherman because this dude is a punching bag. Yeah, he legitimately is. But he might not get another fight. Actually, he might have won his last one. So in the heavyweight division,
265,
yeah, he gets a couple. Then we ended up going to 205ers with Ryan Spann defeating Luis Henrique in a 3-round decision. Spann ended up, this was Grand Transition City. This ended up being mainly on the ground. Henrique da Silva moving down from 205 or from 265. This is exactly as I was saying before. Henrique is a fast heavyweight that can do a lot more at heavyweight because he's facing slower, fatter guys. Where at 205, you're getting real athletes in there. And I didn't like what I saw everything from Spann in there, but I didn't like what I saw from Henrique as well. Being that wrestler, he was getting turned a lot. He was getting outground and just a lot of scrambles that are no bueno. I think Henrique should move up, honestly.
I kind of thought that Henrique, even though he was slow, I just thought that Spann was, oh, wow, he has a lot better wrestling than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Henrique finally got to show, you used to like, forever ago when Henrique was first coming into the game, you liked him.
Yeah, I did.
I felt like I saw what you used to talk about from him, like he has good wrestling, he has good this. I felt like I saw it in this fight. He lost by a decision. I just think Spann has sneaky wrestling. I think he has sneaky good wrestling that he also has good stand-up, and then he has the sneaky good wrestling.
I would also say Spann just looked a bit stronger. Like he was just able to muscle some of those positions naturally, which is a part of the sport. Some people are more athletic than others. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Henrique didn't look horrible in there. Neither did Spann, but I do think that they're both not as high caliber.
Each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they were too similar maybe in skill sets, but I think Spann was just a little better everywhere than Henrique.
I guess the best way I'm putting it, I think they're fighting for like the top 18th at 205, top 23 position at 205 instead of being on their way to top 15, on their way to top 12.
I think going against strikers, both guys win going forward. Against some strikers, I think they're just grappling heavy guys and they just happen to numb each other. So if they're both against stand-up strikers, I think they're both sneaky underdogs going forward. I'm trying to remind myself to like wrestlers more. I
agree, and I'm definitely usually number one bandwagon for wrestlers.
I'm saving all my striker energy for one man.
For one fight. Then the fight we go to is 155 pounds. Francisco Trinaldo coming in and defeating Evan Dunham. TKO round number 2 via body shot. This was Dunham's retirement fight as well. Unfortunately, he comes out on a loss. And he was looking good in there. Evan Dunham was, as we were saying here at LaTB, he has all the skills. He just doesn't have the durability. And I think that's exactly how the fight showed out. He had better skills than Trinaldo in there. He just couldn't lay the brutal force that Chimpanzee Santos can do to you. I mean, that's a broken rib. How's that not a broken rib? Dunham went down like a sack of potatoes.
Poor Dunham.
Poor guy.
Because he retired too, didn't he?
Yep. Yep.
A lot of retirements, too. End of the year, cutting that payroll.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long career for Evan Dunham.
I agree.
He's been in for a long
I think all
time.
the guys that are retiring, I'm like, okay.
I think there should be more.
Guys I think who should be fighting more. You know what I mean? Like, it's guys that I'm like, okay.
I think there should be a lot more
I
retired.
think Trinaldo and him should have skipped off into the sunset together.
Totally. That would have been great.
But Trinaldo said, I can't stop thinking about Kevin Lee.
And rightly so. He hurt Kevin Lee, had him doing the chicken dance right before he ate a kick himself. So barely by the skin of his teeth ended up getting that over Trinaldo. Still, that kick that bounced off of Trinaldo's head, watch him. God, most people would have been asleep, but you could see his muscles just absorb it. I don't know how. It would be like hitting a chimpanzee with a head in a 2x4. Like, he just takes it like, what?
And you're like,
yeah, and he's still up. Yeah, he's still up. And he was able to rear naked choke him. Where do you go with Trinaldo from this? Do you give him Lee, or does he have somebody else?
I mean, maybe it's not fair that Kevin Lee is put in the same pedestal of guys that have... Kevin Lee's in the top of the division partially because of his big fat mouth.
Yes.
And it's kind of not fair that he gets to duck a guy without a big name as much like Trinaldo. Like, why not him and Trinaldo? Trinaldo's on win streak. Why not him versus Kevin Lee? I think Kevin Lee's on a losing streak, if I'm not correct.
Yep.
I don't know. And I just really like Kevin Lee, and I want him to play with these bigger names. Like, in my opinion, I'd rather him see Gaethje just because they're big names, but I don't know if he deserves that fight on Gaethje's last fight or his last 2 fights or whatever.
I don't know if Gaethje deserves it because Trinaldo isn't a big enough name. Like, I think Gaethje's main eventers. Yeah.
It sucks that it is.
It's a good fight.
It's an entertainment era where everything matters. It's like, and you think Trinaldo, that's a huge name. If you're
to the hardcores,
yes,
but that's it.
But it's not about that anymore. So I don't know how I feel about it. And Trinaldo's so old that I'm like, and he fights in Brazil his last few fights, so that's sketchy to me. So there's a couple of where people that are in the sport that know more than I do are like, I ain't fighting one of those guys that won 3 times out of Brazil or won 3 times in a row out of Russia. Like, I'm not fighting those guys, so I could see that too. Anyway.
Totally can see that. As we go on to the 155, or we stay in the 155 pounders, we had Charles Oliveira defeating Cristo Giagos, submission round number 2. Everybody saw this coming as well. Oliveira, definitely the better ground ace. That's where Giagos is his biggest weakness. Giagos looked better his second time in the UFC. Even though he lost that fight, I liked what I saw from Giagos. He used to look a little more reckless in there. Thought he was a bit more controlled on the ground. Didn't look horrible, but it was a matter of time for Oliveira in there against anybody. It's rare what Paul Felder did in there. That's why it was so scary when he did it.
Didn't Oliveira get some sort of record or tie a record?
He broke the record for most submissions ever, defeating BJ Penn for most submissions prior to.
It wasn't BJ Penn ringside?
I believe so.
That's pretty cool.
So Oliveira still got a long time in the sport. He has been in it for a while, but I think at 26, 27, he's a fight-dependent guy. If he comes in there against a grinder, any grinder who is willing to take a beating and then keep going in the 3rd round, will defeat Charles Oliveira. But anyone under that, Cristo Giagos, people that tend to fade a little bit or have weaknesses on the ground or striking.
This is BJ Penn's crazy ass. He was ringside because if he wins his next fight against Hall, that's going to be his next fight. No, and that's going to be his next fight after it will be against Oliveira because they're all grappling guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
That motherfucker, he's just going to fight again. He's going to fight. He's already played his
He's got an 8-fight contract. He's got an 8-fight contract.
Him and Conor both signed a 6-fight deal. Yeah, we said an 8-fight deal, so correction, 6-fight deal. But we weren't the only ones who were wrong.
So, where do you go with Giagos in this? The loser?
Wherever. When I see him again, I will not remember that he got choked out. He'll just be a faceless dude.
Okay.
I don't know him yet well enough.
So try to remember a faceless dude for next time.
And Oliveira will be waiting to fight BJ Penn after his
Then we went to the main card. If you're on verdict, you definitely better be scoring. And This was a controversial one. This is where I hear the Bean would have to say that the judges were not on, and this was not the right call. Ronda Marcos should have won a 29-28 decision, but instead ended up being one of those dirty-ass draws for the debut fighter. Rodriguez, I think, really pulled it out of her ass because Marcos had the fight. I know she lost to striking, but I believe that positional change and positional dominance, being on top on the ground, should overweigh strikes to a certain point. And I don't think Marcos was ever that outstruck that takedown didn't do enough.
I even think Ronda Marcos might have had more significant strikes.
On the ground.
Period. In general, there was one round that I think the other girl only landed 6 strikes or something. I might be mixing it up with another fight, but I agree with you that I don't see how Ronda Marcos lost that fight. I had her winning 2, but oddly enough, I did have one of the rounds, because I'm trying to do this more, I 10-10'd it because I just couldn't decide. And so I'm like, if we were this fair that we actually 10-10'd a round, could they have 10-10'd more than one? That it was a majority draw? Because I gave one of the rounds a draw, and it was close every round. Depending on whether you were more takedown heavy or more striker, you know, the way it looked on the stand-up. So it was a close fight, but I also had 2 rounds to 1, 2 rounds to 1 draw of Ronda Marcos, though.
So that's a majority decision.
Majority decision still, in my opinion.
And in my opinion, I had all 3 rounds for Ronda Marcos. Again, I had a bet on her, so I'm going to say I probably was leaning a little hard. I could see how one of those rounds.
I liked Ronda, too, in that fight. I had her as well.
So that one was definitely sketchy as shit. Then we went to Renan Barão over Andre Ewell. Ewell came in on semi-short notice, was homeless 2 days, or almost homeless 2 days before he got this fight contract, and fought somebody who was 5 pounds heavier in Renan Barão. Renan Barão is shocked. Absolutely. I had Renan Barão here, thought he was going to win a decision, and Ewell came in there and gave a valiant showing, was throwing a 1-2 down the middle and landing at will after that second round. Renan Barão had 1 round gas tank and then just stood in front eating punches the whole rest of the time.
Yeah, I had round 1 and 2. Sorry, I finally got my verdict open. I had 1 and 2 for Marcos, and round 3, 10-10. And then Renan Barão versus Ewell. Oh, yeah. That one, I forgot that I was thinking the same thing the whole time about Renan Barão and making a Kid Robot thing with Renan Barão on it instead of the guy from Kid Robot, and then saying that he looked like Queen. I was in the middle, because he has this far off stare, he looks like he just robbed a bank and he should have stripes on
his way into Renan Barão's weigh-in day.
He always looks like that, in my opinion. And he is shot. And so they had his record before he was 31-1 before USADA, and then 6-1 loss after since USADA.
Yep.
It was some weird numbers like that.
So who did you give the rounds to? Because I actually had Renan Barão winning the first round and then losing the next 2.
I didn't get any of my rounds in.
Oh, okay.
But I do think that Ewell won the fight.
I agree with that. I think that one was right.
In Brazil
against a former champ.
Barão, yeah.
Former champ Renan Barão. I agree that the judges did get this one right, because even though I lost my bet here, it was a good showing.
Did you say Ronda Marcos versus Rodriguez was going to be a dirty split? And it was almost close. I mean, it was a dirty draw, but
I do remember a couple of those being these are going to be dirty splits. We need to start
having a draw. If there's going to be a draw tonight,
this one. Oh, that's hard to call.
It's hard.
That's hard as shit to call.
$1, you can make $75 for $1.
Yeah, something like that. Then we ended up going.
It's almost worth it to go through every fight and just take $12 and put $1 on each draw, or $2 on each draw. And if one of them.
Oh, they're so rare. How many have we had? 4 or 5 all year, if that.
I know, but it's kind of
3.
Cool. It's fun.
It's like double zeros on a roulette table. Then we went to the light heavyweights in Antonio Rodrigo versus Sam Alvey. Smiling Sam ended up getting a tooth knocked out. Not really. I don't know. I think he has all his teeth still. But ended up coming in and losing, being a decided favorite to Nogueira in, was it the very first round or did we get to the second on this one? I think we went to the second round on this one. First minute of the second round. Smiling Sam ended up losing that first round as well. But that's because of his low output and just ended up keeping his back to the wall. That's Sam Alvey, though. That's Sam Alvey. Yeah. He's been in some of the worst fights ever. We were just thinking Nogueira's chin wasn't going to be there, and it was. At 42 years old, Rodrigo Nogueira, I'm fading against pretty much anyone else in the division. So I was impressed that he took out Sam Alvey. I had Alvey actually on way too many DraftKings cards. Took him off a couple once I looked at all of my cards and was like, whoa, I'm going way too heavy on Sam Alvey, and it saved my night. I took him off a couple cards because I was thinking that TKO round number 1 was along the way. I just didn't
have a great night on DraftKings. I've had 2 shitters in a row. But I haven't really went heavy. I haven't gone hard in the paint because I'm just waiting for 229.
I agree with that. And we've been saying that here at LaTB. Like, guys, you can bet heavy on these cards or you can wait for the real money.
DraftKings, I have to give him a shout out.
What?
Musasi McDonald card I think they might have under
on Bellator?
Am I crazy for that thing? No, Verdict might have it.
Oh, okay.
Verdict, sorry. Hey, Verdict, shout out.
Whoa.
Shout out to Verdict for having it.
Shout out, Verdict.
I might be definitely partaking in that card.
For sure. That's going to be a fun one next weekend. We aren't going to have UFC, but we are going to have some special events coming out of LaTB, so stay tuned. Follow, subscribe where you can. Then we ended up getting to the co-main event where we had Alex Oliveira defeating Carl Pedrosali in the first round. It only took a whole 39 seconds. A right ended up off of a kick for Oliveira, ended up finishing with ground and pound. Alex Oliveira, what we say? He get it done any way he needed to in there. And the stories I saw coming out of Oliveira, did you see the shack that he grew up in?
I just really, really, really love Oliveira. He's one of my favorites. He's a sleeper. He's sleeper good. His fights 100% of the time are exciting.
Yep.
He deserves the name Cowboy equally as much as Cowboy Cerrone.
I would totally agree. So if you didn't get a chance on Twitter, there was a couple fun pieces of him hugging his mom, who looks just like him, by the way. In this little favela. I agree with that. He's standing in front of the favela where it's this one, it's not even a bar, it's wood on frames and a bed. And that's where him and his family used to live. But now he's living the high life as a UFC fighter. Apparently he's got 7 kids with 7 different baby mamas. Factual. Cowboy.
He's a handsome chap.
Cowboy. Putting him out the stud. Everyone saw this coming. It's way too big of a step for Pedrosali. I actually, after listening to the cast, put Pedrosali on a few cards, hoping that he would get more of like a 20, 30 points in a decision. I thought he was going to put in a little more valiant of a showing in there, but he got his lights turned out pretty quickly.
Don't you also like on Verdict how you can bet a little bit of points, like a certain amount?
How confident you are in it?
Yeah, I like totally that part of it. And how that one fight, you could just get one fight dead on and how confident you are of it. And you're like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, I put a bunch of those points on Sam Alvey, TKO round number 1. Whee!
I don't think I did move that one up very much. Good. Yeah. Good thing. I don't know. I think I fade Sam Alvey going forward.
I totally agree. But who do you fade more, Nogueira or Alvey at those points? It's Nogueira, hands down.
Now, definitely Sam Alvey.
Well, no, of course, Captain. What is it? What do they call it?
Captain Obvious.
Not Captain Obvious. Who's the other one? The guy who always says it after the fact. Moving on to the main
Echo
event.
Man.
Forsyth, Captain Forsyth or something like that. Dr. Forsyth.
Foreskin?
What?
Dr. Foreskin? Paging Dr.
But
Foreskin.
that's exactly where I was going to go.
We got Herman. Paging Mr. Herman. You have a telephone call at the front desk.
Completely off of the rails to the main event. We had a firefight in a 3-rounder, ended up finishing in between the rounds, and both of these short notice 85ers really brought the heavy hits, with Eric Anders losing to Thiago Santos via back of the head strikes. Because I don't care who you are, those elbows were hitting the spine and back of the head so many times. Eric Anders couldn't stand up.
Same thing I retweeted though. I think that guy rewatched the fight twice and said he isn't deleting the tweet.
Who's that guy? Hold on. More context.
Somewhere on Twitter, I retweeted something. I was like, the Bean agrees with this. He thinks it was back of the head strikes. And the guy said, I'm not deleting the tweet, but I am taking it back. I rewatched it, and I don't think it was to the back of the head.
Do you think it was to the ear?
To the ear, yeah.
I think there was I don't
Probably
think every
mixed,
strike.
but not, yeah.
I was going to say probably a little mixed, but the fact that one strike is illegal to the back of the head means you stop and put them in neutral position. And I had Santos winning this via TKO, round number 3, cashing money. So luckily, Anders wasn't able to get up in that third because I was like, oh, there goes my prop bet. Ended up cashing out plus 800 on Santos in the third, but I scattered it with 2 and 3. Where do you go with either guy? I think they both look good. Short notices.
I agree with you. I thought they both looked good. I thought it was such a smart idea of the UFC to say, hey, will you guys meet another 185er at 205?
Totally.
Brilliant idea for short notice fights, UFC, and I think you should take heed and do that again in the future. Don't make a guy meet a guy from a heavy weight class or that same weight class, but say, would you agree to meet another 155er at 170? Or would you agree to meet a 135er at 145? That would make for a lot better fights, I think. So, for the short notice fights, I definitely like the bigger weight class. Eric Anders, in my opinion, looked better at 205 than I ever thought he looked at 185. So goes to kind of exactly what you were saying before, is his speed that doesn't translate well at 185. He looked fast at 205.
Because all those guys are faster than the 205ers.
Yeah, and speed is something that translates up where power doesn't. Thiago Santos's power didn't translate up to 205 as well. Usually he's just a slayer. He still did, but I definitely think it was exhaustion over elbows, in my opinion.
I would agree with that because 6 days notice, I don't care who you are.
I agree. I was thinking right before he did fall out, this guy's a superhero. If he stays at 205, he'll win every fucking fight, because I don't know how somebody can do this on 6 days notice. Like, I was like, mouth agape.
They were both pushing.
Going.
Yeah, they were, I was like, they're not trying to go 5 rounds. Like, these dudes are not trying to go 5 rounds.
I would even like if the UFC sometimes just signed, hey, will you two 285ers meet in 3 weeks at the higher weight?
Yeah.
I would like these fights more. I felt like we really got to see something, a different kind of fight than we would normally get to see.
Yeah, a more exciting fight, for sure. For sure. What I gotta take away from this, even though Anders lost, and for either one of these guys, it doesn't look good or bad. Or I guess for Anders, it doesn't look as bad because it's 6 days notice. It's against a big guy. It's out of the country, so it's all the travel and stuff. So Santos, he should keep moving. I don't lose stock in Anders is what I'm trying to say. And the biggest thing I took from this is Eric Anders is a real motherfucking G.
I was giving some of those rounds to Anders until he got...
I could see the second.
I had the second Anders, and then I was giving the third to Anders until all hell broke loose. For real. I was like liking the way he looks. I thought he was laying more strikes, controlling the ring more. I thought Thiago Santos was fading.
I was about to ask, who did you think looked more gassed? Because Anders was... they were both so freaking tired in that third round, but they were both, again, putting together 6-7 punch combinations and then limp. They were just like a puppet, cut the strings. They both just lean on each other, and then they'd get enough strength to have a 5-punch combination, and then, woo! It was sweaty palms.
It was intense. It was an intense night. It was an intense night. I'm glad some guys were tired. It's good to see for a change, and it's emotional. Like, good.
Out of 5 stars, what did you give the Sao Paulo Brazil card?
Because I had such a low expectation for it, I think it ended up being a 5.
Out of 5 stars.
No, out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Out of 10.
Out of 10.
So 2.5 out of 5.
2.5 out of 5?
Halfway, yeah.
Okay. I would say out of 5, I was going to give it a 3.5. And I would say around that 7.5 on a out of 10 scale.
The only reason I can't go any higher than a 2.5 is because there was so many setup fights.
And that draw, motherfucker.
There was a bullshit draw, and like for you to get all my numbers, I need a perfect where I'm like, wow, those judges were great tonight. Those refs stopped that at the perfect time. Like I need to feel that way about it also, where Brazil, you impressed me though more than Brazil though. You did. I thought it was going to be fishier, and there were some fights that were closer than I thought.
Totally. So there was actually somewhat. Did you think Sam Alvey was officially out? Because people were saying that one was a little short because...
It was kind of a little tiny bit fast, and he was a little wobbly and whatnot. I don't know what good was gonna come out of that being any longer. It was a little short, but I don't know what good for him.
I agree with that. Was there someone else that was in that same boat? That it was people said it was a little bit early, but I do think most of the stoppages were on point.
I thought the refs were great. They all get, if I was doing a ref chart of, let me open my booklet of bad and good refs, I think everybody did a great job, and Mark Goddard was one of them, because I always give him hate. He is not I usually say he's my least favorite, but that is Herb Dean lately. So Mark Goddard, kudos, and the lady judge, who I'm sorry.
That's how we're... Judge or ref?
A ref, sorry.
I agree. I believe it's Catalina, but I could be wrong. That could just be one of the ring girls.
That could just be the vodka girl.
So,
Catalina.
Be sure to stay tuned wherever you can. We got more good stuff coming along the way. Big fights.
Yes, and thanks for listening once again.
Lesbo the Bean!
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and the Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.